Poop poem for Blake. Can you imagine shitting next to a girl you were texting? Now, to her, you'll never be sexy. Why? 'Cause you were shitting next to her texting. Come along. A couple or so years ago, I heard a story that I almost couldn't take. It involved my friend and a girl. My friend's name is Blake. I'm not sure of the girl's name. Really, that's okay, because this story involves poop in a very embarrassing way. Alright, first of all, maybe this is too personal to tell you. See, Blake was a normal guy, but he was not regular. He had stomach issues all his life, causing pain, causing strife, causing all kinds of shit. One fateful morning, he was getting ready for class. He felt a storm in his stomach and a quiver in his ass, but he just walked right out the door, and I hate to inform you, he had in his hands Pop-Tarts and orange juice. What, nobody warned you? That's a lethal combination to be eating and drinking. Pretty soon, Blake, you are gonna be screaming. Can you imagine shitting next to a girl you were texting? Now, to her, you'll never be sexy. Why? 'Cause you were shitting next to her texting. Well, Blake made it to class and he sat down at his desk and he tried to concentrate on what the professor said, but really his mind was elsewhere, on the storm inside. And also he'd gotten a text message on his drive there. It was a text from a girl. She was in that same class. They'd sat by each other some way in the back, but it was just one of those nothing texts, you know, not real conversation. It said, "What's up with you?" Just some subtle flirtation. So he sent one back that said, "Nothing much. How'd your weekend go?" And it went back and forth for 20 minutes or so, but all the while his stomach's still twisting and churning and he can't even think. Forget about learning. He's fidgeting and sweating. He's like, "Calm down. I got it." But his professor keeps talking about the gross national product. All these subtle suggestions might make him lose control. Was it true that the Browns were bound for the Super Bowl? That's it. Time's up. Now he can't take it. If he starts sprinting now, he might just make it. So he busts out of class, out the back, out of sight, and he tries to tell himself it'll all be all right. But he feels his bowels moving, feels it all coming loose. He says, "Please God, keep it in," like a brown recluse. But it was already poking out like a 1/4 inch, and there's a sign on the door, "Out of order." Shit! So he runs to his truck. Now he's on his way home, and his jeans vibrate, and he looks at his phone. It's another text from that girl. It says, "Where'd you go? You left like a bat out of hell." He said, "Had to take care of some business, TTYL." Now he's losing it. His legs start to shake, and like the Bush administration, he was well aware that the levees were about to break. So he pulls his truck over into the first place he sees, which is a gas station, appropriately. He walks into the store with a forced casual stroll, and he tries not to look at all the king-size Tootsie Roll. He heads to the back to the sign that says men's, but there's another sign on the door, "Out of order," again. He says, "No way! Oh my God, you must be kidding!" Turns around, sees another sign. This one says, "Women's." Can you imagine shitting next to a girl you were texting? Now, to her, you'll never be sexy. Why? You were shitting next to her texting. And this, my friends, is where it gets interesting. You see, he's in the women's restroom, but he's not doing much resting. No, he's grunting and sweating and cursing like wild, and he thinks for a minute he might be birthing a child. His phone vibrates again. He's like, "What in the world?" And of course, it's another text from that girl. It says, "Class let out early. What incredible luck. Hey, are you at that Shell station? I think I see your truck." He's like, "Can't really talk now. Don't mean to offend you, but I've got some business I really must tend to." So he gets back to work. Oh, the smell. Oh, the sounds. By now he's lost his dignity as well as 10 pounds. But then he hears the door open and in walks some lady. Blake looks to the sky. "God, why do you hate me?" So he lifts up his feet to silence the squeaks, and he holds his breath and he clenches his cheeks. The lady's steps echo and bounce off the wall. She sits down to Blake's left in the only other stall. Now he's holding and sweating more and trying to get a grip. He can't shit next to a girl. He can't just let it rip, but there's really only so long you can hold it. So he eventually lets it go, drops a bomb in the toilet, and it's louder and grosser than any shit ever known. Nature called, and he just put it on speakerphone, and believe me, she hears it loud and clear. But she too had quite the symphony blasting from the reader. But in the midst of it all, he thinks he hears typing, which means she's still a long way from wiping. A few seconds later, his phone vibrates again. He reaches to silence it as fast as he can. It says, okay, see you next class, or call me sometime. So he types, okay, I just might. He hits send, then puts his phone in his pants by the floor. 3 seconds later, here's a ringtone next door. You need not be a genius, nor even that clever, to hear to put number 2 and number 2 together. The wheels start spinning. A few seconds pass, he suddenly realizes it's that girl from his class, so he reverts back to trying to hold it and praying to God that she hasn't noticed. Oh, the silence was maddening. They both almost lost it, just the occasional sniff and the drip of a faucet. It was unbearable. It was too much to take, so she breaks the silence. She says, Blake? He's been found out. But he's tired of hiding. He's had enough, so he takes a deep breath and responds, What's up? She's like, what the hell are you doing in here? Are you insane? He's like, well, it's hard to explain. And then it's like, awkward. I mean, what do you say? Do you laugh? Do you cry? Do you ask her on a date? She nervously laughs and gets in a hurry and fights back the tears as she wipes prematurely. She's out the door without even saying bye, with a hitch in her step and a tear in her eye. Blake's left all alone, not knowing what to think, with only his shame and a horrible stink. And was it because of that pungent poo that out of their anus so heinously flew, that neither could ever endeavor to weather the thought of again ever sitting together? They drifted apart. They found someone else, 'cause there's a few things we must keep to ourselves. Fast forward a year. Their paths crossed at the college. They smiled with a secret, intimate knowledge, but spoke not a word of those long-ago turds, what they saw, what they felt, what they smelled, what they heard. They walked on with their heads as high as their hopes, and so it goes, and so it goes. But she turned around startled. Her heart jump-started. Maybe she loved him. Maybe he farted.
Can you imagine shitting next to a girl who you were texting? Now to her you're never gonna be sexy, 'cause you were shitting next to her and texting. Can you imagine shitting next to a girl who you were texting? To her you're never gonna be sexy, 'cause you were shitting next to her and texting. You were shitting